Hello everyone. It's been a while since my last stream. Hope all of you are doing okay, staying safe. Alright, so I'll be doing a quick sketch for Black Cat today. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, I've been really busy with work, so couldn't find time to live stream for the past 2 weeks. So my apology. Okay, so let's start. Take out my watch. I guess it must be late for some of you, right? Hope I did not interrupt your sleep. Give me a moment to finish up the eyes before I look into your messages. Just want to make sure I get it right. And I'm live streaming on Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter actually. Yeah. So if you prefer other channel to watch my stream, feel free to hop over. Do you find your hands causing smudge mark at all? No, not really. So when I ink, I try to ink from the left to the right to minimize the smudging. But at the same time, I think this paper is really, really good. So it doesn't smudge, it dries up really easily. Yeah. What's the what's the best way to line my art if my hands are shaky? Well, you just need to really practice to so that your muscle memory will be there to guide you through. It's really important to project your lines before you draw it. That means try to visualize where you want the line to go before you start drawing it. For black hair, it's a little tricky because of the white hair, so I try not to use too much black on the white hair, otherwise it will look weird. Yeah, for those of you who watched my live stream for the first time today, welcome. For those who don't know the character, this is Black Cat from Marvel. I believe this is one of the most requested characters that I draw at conventions. Do I have a favorite character to draw on request? Not really. But usually take one character per show. That means if someone asks for a black cat, then he will be the only one at the show who get the black cat sketch from me. So one character per sketch per show. Just to keep things fresh for me, I don't want to draw like 10 black cats in a show. It gets really boring, you know. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Yeah, try to keep the lines light. I mean thin. Maybe in the occlusion areas, then I can add a bit darker values. It's interesting that even though I draw traditional sketches, I do think like a digital artist all the time. Thank you. Usually the inking time for me for a sketch like this would be about probably 40 minutes. Again, depends on the complexity of the image. For characters with a lot of blacks, like Catwoman, it would take me a lot longer to ink them because of again, the too much black areas. I may change some of the line and the contours during the inking stage to make it look better. So the lines, although the sketch is there, but it's just to guide me, but I'm free to change them. Oh, I may have missed quite a lot of questions. Yeah. When did I start drawing? I started drawing when I was 15. Back in the days, there wasn't internet, no social media, nothing. How do I get such as clean lines? I get just years of practice and steady hands, and being able to see where the lines are going before I draw it, and then my hand will follow what my head is looking at. So it's really the hand-eye coordinations. I'm using a kind of paper that only available in my country, in Singapore. It's some kind of inkjet paper that's not meant for Copics, but it works really well with Copics and ink. It's 250 grams, so it's a really thick stock. I'm using a Copic SM4D brush pen. This is something that I always love to use. My favorite brush pen ever. Unfortunately, it's not refillable, so once it runs out of ink, you have to get a new one. But I love the ink flow and the control of the lines. Amazing. Now I'm using a multi-liner to add some extra fine details. Love your work. It's great meeting you at Comic Con a few years ago. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm really missing Comic Con, any conventions. Actually, I'm missing going out. It's been quite challenging to be stuck at home for a long time. I miss my friends. I miss my drink and draw session with my friends. Well, mainly draw, no drinking actually. I think for traditional sketches like this, it's good to bring in some line variety. So it's more interesting to look at. There's some thick and thin lines. I mean, you can add them now, you can add them later, up to you. You realize that for the fur area? Oh no, it stopped. Alright guys, let me restart my stream. Seems like it stopped on the Instagram side. So, be right back. Welcome back. Alright, so let's continue. Now I'm going to switch to a Pentel art brush. It's just a bigger brush pen. This one is refillable, so you can always change the cartridge once it runs out of ink. So I use that to ink bigger areas. So I'm leaving some white areas for the specular reflections. It may look a little too strong for now, but once you go through with some gray ink or darker values, when I go over it, it will look much better. Yeah, the whole trick is to really try not to leave too much white areas in your work. There are two values are very important, black and white, especially in digital art. So we try to avoid using black and white or any the extreme dark, bright values or extreme saturated tones. Those are reserved for, I would say, emergency. I think the trickiest part of drawing a a character with a lot of black areas is the separation of different parts. How to separate them and still look believable. So sometimes you have to put some exercise some creative liberty to introduce some reflections that may not be there in the real world, but help to separate the section a bit better, like how the hand is going to interact with the neck now, and how to separate the hand stuff. Things I need to consider a lot. Just want to check if this is a black glove, white glove. Yeah, it's a black one. Okay. I mean, latex textures is always tricky, especially when you calculate the reflections or introduce some fake reflections. But there's no actual background information for me to calculate how this is being reflected. So sometimes I need to imagine that. How to know where to shade? All this idea of shading and adding values to different areas, those are grounded in fundamentals of art, means the foundations of understand how light work in reality, and try to replicate that in art. So it's all about fundamentals. What's my favorite part of the drawing process? I guess each have their own fun, but I really like the sketching part of it. Like how to brainstorm the ideas, how to plan for the compositions. And those are really fun. How long does it take for me to do a piece? Usually, if it's a convention, it's about an hour-ish. Again, give and take depends on the complexity of the image, of course. Sometimes I encounter very complicated designs, for example, those from games, like if someone asks me to draw a Fate Go character, maybe I'll take a lot longer because just of the complexity of the design. But usually for superheroes, it take me about an hour to finish. But it's always tricky to draw at conventions because there's always people coming here to look at my booth and to sign books for them. So I have to draw a few strokes, stop, then continue throughout the entire convention. So it can be quite challenging. So some of you have met me at conventions. You may have caught me at the wrong time, which means that I was really focused on drawing some things. And so when I look up to you, when you say hi to me, I may not respond with the biggest, shiniest, warmest smile ever. So you may think that I'm a rude person. I'm not. Sometimes it's hard to fight the jack leg, draw, and smile all days. Sometimes I see like messages or people talking about me after convention. Sometimes people will say that, "Oh, Ajam is such a douchebag." You know, he didn't even smile at me when I say hi to him. You know, sometimes I feel really sorry. I guess it's true, right? I mean, if you are going to a conventions, spend that kind of money and then time and to meet your favorite artist, you tend to have a very high expectation of the person. So you project or you imagine the best meetup ever with your favorite artist, and sometimes we may disappoint you or does not match up to your expectations. Yeah, all these white parts may look a little harsh at this point because it's only black and white. But once you overlay it with some values, it will look much better. I really like this brush pen as well. It's not as fine as the Copic ones, but it gives you a lot more line variety, and the tip really stays sharp for a long time. I think I've been using this pen for maybe 2 years already, and it's still good. It's still sharp, like extremely sharp. So if you're considering playing with brush pen, this is something that you can really consider. Do I prefer paints or ink? I don't really paint traditionally. Besides using Copics and stuff and charcoal, I paint digitally. So I do enjoy the inking part for traditional medium. How do you stay motivated to finish everything you start? Because I like it. I think that's the easiest answer. Because before I draw something, I already had about 75% of the final image in mind. So if I like what I see in my head, usually I will like it after I finish it. Not all the time it will match up to my expectation, of course, and there are many problem solving I need to do, adjustment I need to do during the painting process. But that's the fun part of it. I always tell my students that I will never draw any image if I can see 100% of the final image in my head, because it's not fun. The fun comes when you have a bit of uncertainty, not so much to the point you discourage yourself, but a little bit of that. So about 70% of the final image in your head is a good, to me, is a good indication that I can do something great about it. I mean, just like playing game, right? If you for sure you can kill the boss in the game, then what's the fun of it? You want to make sure that the boss also put up a good fight, so that your game will be more fun. Whether playing Monster Hunter, Dark Souls, or Final Fantasy, it's the same. So art is like that. The fear of failing it or did not match up to your expectations eventually is actually making the art more fun. Any advice on drawing hair? Now, drawing hair is a little tricky. I just can't explain everything in 1-2 sentences. But you need to always consider the length, the weight of the hair. Some hair heavier and thicker, so it's heavier. So the length and the weight and the style of the hair. Like, is it straight? Is it curly? where does it part? And then we will talk about the dynamics. Dynamics basically means that is the hair in motions? How does hair swing from left to right? Hair is not a solid object. It consists of strands, like little tiny tubes, to form the illusion of the entire hair. So you have to draw the illusion out. You're not supposed to draw every single hair strands, of course. I mean, you can, but I don't think you should. So you have to group the hair up in sections, so that some hairs, a section here, a section here, a section here for the fringe, a section here at the back. So usually when I plan for the hair, I draw from front to the back. So you draw the front part of the hair and then go to the back of the hair to see how they overlap each other. So it's good to break the hair into sections. Chunks basically means. Yeah. And for hair, usually the weight of the hair means the pulling force of the hair on top is a lot stronger because it has to support the entire length of the hair at the bottom. So the top part usually conforms better to the scalp. But when it comes to the bottom part of the hair, is where it starts to get loose and randomized in random movement. So you can also play a lot more with the slightly different angles of the hair, the tail end of it. So more conforming on top, a lot looser at the bottom, especially when you encounter dynamics like winds and movements. I mean, in reality, anything can happen. Her hair may be able to cover her face, or a chunk of hair may be dropping down from the top to cover part of her face. It's true, but in art, we have to design it to the point that it looks good. Just think of it like Superman, or even like characters like Cloud. No matter how you move, the hair always stay good. Yeah. So it's a bit of realism and a bit of aesthetic choices. Alright, that should be quite enough for my black ink. And what's going to happen after this is I'm going to take a short break. Remember to take a break every 1 hour to preserve the lifespan of your hand. And I'll come back and put some gray on it and then proceed to finalize it. So meanwhile, you may want to grab a coffee if you're falling asleep or you just wake up. I'll see you guys back in 5 minutes. Alright, don't go away. Well, you can, have a toilet break, but don't quit on me, alright? See you in a bit.